This makes me want to revisit one of our earlier conversations after. I think it might have been after the first Rams game when I said Saquon Barkley is the best player on the team, and you guys, but you and Cilio both laughed at me. I still feel like Saquon Barkley is the best football player on the team. He might be one of the best football players in the world right now.
What is that? That yeah.
No, it just
Yeah.
reminded me of the
We'll
conversation.
agree to disagree on that. Well, on that one.
I don't know, man. Saquon Barkley might be a better running back than AJ as receiver.
Well, right now he is because AJ's hurt. You know, and again, fighting through it, which nobody cares about. You know, oh, are you producing basically? And that's fine. He gets it. But you know, I'll say it again. If you look over, not that PFF is the be all end all, not even the best running back in football this year. If you look at it from play to play, now again, I talk all the time. To me, and I use the Ryan Howard experiment. It you know, who was the most impactful player on those great Phillies teams? Not even a question. Ryan Howard. Who was the best player? He won Ryan Howard. Just from a 5-tool baseball perspective.
Right.
That's what we're talking about. So, and again, everything depends on definitions. Like who does his job, every single part of his job, the best. That's how I grade players. That's how when NFL teams grade players, that's how they do it. That's how PFF tries to do it. Not that they're perfect, but that's the consistency from play to play. And for the Philadelphia Eagles for the past 2 or 3 years, that's been A.J. Brown. And
It's a little faulty, though, because not every play has the same level of meaning. In other words, if Saquon doesn't block,
that's what I just said with Ryan Howard. That's the example. The 3-run home run, you can go 1 for 4, strike out 3 times, and hit a 3-run home run and win the game versus the guy like Chase Utley or Jimmy Rollins who's going to make every play in the field. He's going to steal a base. He's going to hit for average. He's going to do all these different things. You had a bigger impact on the game because of the way people see impact. They see the long touchdowns. They don't care about the Mekhi Becton block. They don't care about the Cam Jurgens block or the Jordan Mailata seal block, or as Nick Sirianni talked about, the receivers blocks down. They don't care about that shit. They see the impact of the game. I'm just talking to the conversation of who's the best at their job. Now, you might have a different definition, and it's about impact, and then it's not even a question. It's Saquon. As for who he does his job the best, for the past couple of years, it's been AJ. Before that, it's been Lane, Fletcher for a lot of years. You can even argue with Jordan Mailata this year. But for who does their job the best on a play-to-play basis, yeah, that's why people say AJ. And Saquon says AJ.
Well, AJ says Saquon. Saquon says AJ. I mean, come on.
No,
Moss becomes a member. Catherine, thank you. We appreciate that.
No, to clearly differentiate from that, AJ went up to him on camera after one of the 70-yard touchdowns and said that, and people take it as gospel. Saquon has been saying that behind the scenes since training camp, during the season, off record, on record, consistently. He believes it.
Well, yeah, he's not going to say himself, John.
No, he is not going to say.
I just listened to the video they put up there.
When everybody showed up here, including you and AJ said he's the best player. I said the same thing.
You act like I'm the only fucking. Odell Beckham tweets it out. I watched the video yesterday. I forget who. One of the Eagles players comes up. I've never seen a guy play football as good as you. To him on the bench yet during the game. I mean, yeah, I'm not. Come on, I'm not the only one who thinks this. Saquon Barkley is clearly an unbelievable football player.
He clearly is an unbelievable football player, but come on, people are skill position play, the impact. Do you not understand what I'm saying here? Derrick Henry, Bijan Robinson, Josh Jacobs, Bucky Irving, James Conner, Jahmyr Gibbs, Kenneth Walker, Tyler Algier, David Montgomery. You know why I say those names? They have better PFF grades than Saquon Barkley. Nobody's got a better PFF grade than Jordan Mailata. Nobody. AJ Brown, I'll look him up real quick.
I'm not a big fan of that metric for this conversation.
Well, I know you're not a big fan because it doesn't work. But if you're talking about Jordan Mailata, these knucklehead Eagles, oh, that's great. Oh, but they made a mistake on.
No, but I've never. I don't dismiss PFF like that. That's unfair for you to put that box around me. I think Saquon is a harder player to quantify based on the way that they grade, and you've explained very clearly the way they grade.
A harder player to quantify.
To grade.
He's a harder player to quantify for fans because they get obsessed with the splash. That's the harder point. Again, if you look at it,
splash plays don't have a greater importance than a block.
Did I not have seriously? Did I?
I know you said that, but you're acting like you didn't say that with your other conversation.
No, because you're acting like I didn't say it.
No,
I said that's.
I gave you credit for saying
you keep going back to the same thing. Here's the bottom line: 78-yard touchdown, 62-yard touchdown. Okay, that's phenomenal. That's 2 3-run home runs in the same game, basically. Okay. That is quick math, 140 yards. He touched it 24 other times and got a total of 65 yards. Why can't you see the other end of the spectrum?
I can, but I think those 2 plays are worth more than if he had a better average on the other 24 plays. I'd rather have the 2 home runs.
I get that. But if you look at, I think you can understand my baseball discussion of the 5-tool player.
Absolutely. I absolutely can.
So that's what people are saying. Who does their job the best from play to play to play? And that's why he's not in the discussion. That's it. I'm with you. The 3-run home run is more valuable. But that doesn't mean he's better. And forget about AJ, because some people have a problem with better, that Jordan Mailata has been this year.
Well, that was my only point about PFF. I wasn't trying to take a shit on it. I think I've been pretty fair with it all year. But do they have the proper way to grade those big impact plays, in your opinion? That's what I'm saying.
They're not grading the same way you're grading. They're grading the way NFL teams grade. So when Nick Sirianni's looking at the film, he's saying, great play, great play, great play, great play, great play, shitty play, shitty play, shitty play. He's correcting the shitty plays.
Right.
They look at it differently.
I'll take Saquon Barkley.
Well, I know I'm not going to change he's not going to win the MVP. I hate to break it to people. He's not the best player on the Eagles. He's a phenomenal player. He had a historic season, but that's not good enough for people. He's not the best player in the world because Avonte Maddox says it. Ask NFL players. They're going to say Lamar Jackson, the vast majority of them. He is the best player in the world, Lamar Jackson.
I'll say, in my opinion, all right, not in PFF or whatever you want to else. In my opinion, Zander Krause's opinion, I think he's a top 3 football player on the planet this year with the impact he's had on this team.
In Zander Krause's opinion, can a top 3 player in the NFL be anything other than a skill position player? And I'll take quarterback out of it because quarterback is the most impactful position, so that's understandable. But I'm not even picking on you because
I understand what you're saying.
I'll ask all the listeners
in that conversation, though.
Yeah, I'll ask all the listeners as well, and if they're honest with themselves, the answer would be no, because that's all they're worried about.
Well, yeah, because Jordan Mailata, unfortunately for him, doesn't have the ability to have 2 6 breakaway touchdowns or impact a game like that. I get what you're saying, but I don't know, John. He has damn near quarterback numbers in terms of yardage this year, dude. He's got like 2,500 yards. It's pretty insane what he's doing for this team.
He's having an historic season. It's a different conversation. again. And I asked Nick Sirianni this question yesterday because for the first time, I heard it twice this week. For the first time, I've never heard it before. For the first time, I heard two different people say, this is one of the greatest offensive lines of all time.
That's definitely true. And they definitely help Barkley. I can easily acknowledge that.
And I started thinking about it. And it's interesting because, Washington's coming in this week, and it's been a long time. But, the old Hogs for Joe Gibbs and the old Redskins, that's one of the greatest offensive lines of all time. And you start to think about, is this one of the greatest offensive lines of all time? It's not like it's not like you have a small sample size with Saquon Barkley. He was a great player in New York. But you saw what he was for 6 seasons. So, is it the chicken or is it the egg?
I hear what you're saying, but didn't he overachieve in New York with that shitty fucking team? Seriously, he had the shittiest players around him.
Well, obviously, the support, that's the whole point. You can only get to a same, Nick's.
Yeah, you need,
Nick's
Saquon's not Saquon this year, or a top 3 guy, like I said in my eyes, without the offensive line.
Well, you've already seen he's not a top 3 guy by himself, And again, I'm taking quarterback out because quarterback can elevate, take impact, and so I'm taking quarterback out of it. Receivers can't be that unless they have a vehicle to get the football. When Nick says it's the ultimate team game, people turn off and they say, they roll their eyes when he says all this cliches. You can't be great without the greatness of others. It turns into a cliche, but it's not bullshit.
Doesn't he kind of have like a quarterback level impact though this year on this team? Saquon?
No, come on. That's how can a running back?
We're running.
How can it, like I say about quarterbacks, whether they're the best, mediocre, the worst, they are the most impactful players on every single team by the nature of the position.
Well, that's because that makes sense.
So that's when we always do our top 25 Eagles, Ed and other people do most impactful. And I say, Ed was asking me one year, should we do most impact? I'm like, what? Why? That's boring. It's always the quarterback. Always. Whether it's, again,
I know. I just mean this team has been different. I mean, we've been documenting it here on the show.
Still the quarterback. Still the quarterback.
But we've talked about how the passing game is lessened and we've become a run first.
Yeah, but the impact on the Eagles is still the quarterback. For instance, all the Jalen Hurts apologists, they always bring up, well, he doesn't turn the football over, which he hasn't. And they play up that because they want to play it up. Well, guess what? If he did turn the football over, he'd be the goddamn most impactful player on the field. The fact that he doesn't, people just don't recognize it, but that's a big part of it. Again, if you can go all the way down to the worst starting quarterback in this league, he is the most impactful player on his team in a negative way, but the most impactful player on his team. That's the position is so much more important than any other position on the field. It's just not, you're not possible to have that's not an insult.
I understand what you're saying. The only thing I would say to you, I would surmise to you would be, without Saquon, I don't believe this team is close to a 16-3 football team. And because of that, I feel as though his impact on the Eagles is QB-esque, QB level. I'm not saying he's a QB. I know he doesn't touch the ball every play, but
what would the team be? Well, I agree with you. They wouldn't be 16-3 without Saquon Barkley. But what would they be with, the Minnesota Vikings offensive line that we saw 2 weeks ago?
It's a good question.
I mean,
I don't know.
You can ask that about, you
can ask that about the quarterback too, though.
Yeah, you can ask that about everybody. Are they a 16? They're a 16-3 team because they're a good team. Can't be great without the greatness of others. They are a team. And there are more important parts to the team. And obviously, Saquon is the splashiest part of this particular team. So I get why everybody defaults to that. But again, when you ask the best, like who does his job the best, that's my definition of best player. You can have a different definition. That's up to you. That's up to any fan. That's up to anybody. That's my definition. One thing I learned in debate class, champion, by the way.
That doesn't surprise me in the freaking slightest.
well, one thing you do, and I used to try to explain this to Jody, it never worked. Yeah, look, if I don't agree with your premise, if I don't agree with somebody else, I'm not fucking arguing with you. Because that's not my argument.
Right. You can only argue if you agree about the set premise, because that's where the argument is.
And mine is who does their job. That's my definition. That's what I'm arguing. That's my definition. Who does their job the best? And on this particular team, it has been A.J. Brown since he got here. It might be Jordan Mailata this year, because he's been so good. So good. And Jordan Mailata will tell you it's Lane Johnson. And Nick Sirianni, to be honest, will tell you it's Lane Johnson. Nick did it again yesterday. Nick believes Lane Johnson is the best football player he's ever coached.
He believes who? Lane Johnson is?
Yes.
That doesn't surprise me. That was an all-time McMullen line. Champion, by the way.
Well, I was. Well,
I honestly, truly, in my heart of hearts, believe that. And if you made me pick on guessing, I would have guessed that.
No, because I like it would drive Jody. I'm like, all right, I don't give a shit about your premise. I'm not going to argue your premise.
What was that, like debate school in college or something?
Yeah, that's debate school. That's the first thing you learn. It's like you're never going to win debating somebody else's premise.
I forget.
Like, we
had something in high school that was similar to debate school. I forget what it was called.
Not debate school. It was
mock trial or something. I forget what it was.
It's a debate class, but yeah, if you've already lost if you're debating somebody else's premise.
Makes sense. All right, we got to read a couple of these super chats, and they're shitting on you. I don't know why, bro. John crashing out. Come on, Brody. No, he's not. We're just having a conversation. Isaiah Douglas. How many of those guys are still playing? I don't know who you're talking about. Sorry. Isaiah, if you follow up in the chat.
I was talking about guys who got knocked out of the playoffs. So because Lamar Jackson got knocked out of the playoffs, he's not good. So I'll say this, Isaiah. If the Eagles lose, does that lessen your thought on Saquon Barkley? If they lose to Washington, which I don't think they're going to. If they lose their super That's a dumb comment. No offense.
I got a different best player in the world than you two, by the way. I got Josh Allen right now. I think he's the best player in the world.
He's going to be 2 in the MVP voting.
Yeah. I just think he's elevated.
And Saquon's going to be 3, which, by the way, is a phenomenal season. And Saquon is going to win Offensive Player of the Year. But he's not going to win MVP. And if I'm wrong, you can come back and shit on me.
Eric Lucetta says, John don't know crap. Eric, I don't think you know crap, because John very evidently knows a lot of crap. Dirty Air says, PFF smoke. I don't know what he's saying there. Ass, butt, I don't know what the heck that means. Dirty Air. You're going to have to follow.
Only when you disagree with it. Only when you disagree with it.
Abe checks in. Barkley's so good, he makes star players look mid.
I mean, I realize I'm talking to an Eagles fan base. I realize what's coming. I mean, here's the exercise, guys. Whomever your favorite player was, and again, they're not skill position player, although AJ is. The Lane Johnsons of the world, the Jordan Mailatas of the world. You want to go shit on them? Go shit on them. Feel free.
Here we go. Brody Z checks in. PFF John boasts PFF as though it's the gospel. How many of those highly rated players are still playing there? That same comment again.
Yeah. Well, Brody, I just said they weren't the gospel. But
I think John gave you pretty good.
I have a shocking belief that you didn't listen to what I said, but
Jair checks in. How was that a dumb comment when Lamar gave the ball away 2 times?
How is it a dumb comment? So because Lamar gave the football away 2 times in a football game on whatever date that was on January on one game, he's not the best player in the world. Yeah, that's a dumb comment. Does being the best player in the world mean you're perfect? No. Does it mean you're going to win 3 MVPs? Yeah.
All right, let's get to our commercial break. We only have 10 minutes now till Chris Franklin. We might as well just stick it out here and talk about prep on this game here, John. Getting into this game. I want to get off the topic of Saquon Barkley. I should have went down that road anyway, but we did. And it was
no, it's feel fair. He's, by the way, he's having a historic season. Historic season. One of the best running seasons of all time. And he may, if they make it to the Super Bowl, hell, they might not even make it to the Super Bowl. They might not even have to make it to the Super Bowl, and he might break Terrell Davis's record. He's having a phenomenal year.
What's he, 160 away?
Less than that, 130 something. I can get the exact number, but again, I just heard 2 different people who I respect. I'm not talking about engagement farmers that you all lose your minds over behind the scenes.
John, you're taking shots this morning, Johnny Mac. You're throwing jabs left and right.
I get annoyed by the constant. I mean, if you don't listen to something and comment on it, I mean, it doesn't hold much weight. So, for the guy saying, John says PFF is gospel, and I just said it's not gospel. I just said those literal words. I tend to have less respect to the conversation. But, I heard 2 people I respect behind the scenes, former general managers, as a matter of fact, who called this, for the first time I've heard this, one of the best offensive lines in the history of football. And it made me stop and think, is that the case? And it might be the case. So, I think it all comes, and that's why I brought up the Nick cliches about great. It can't be great without the greatness of others, the ultimate team game, yada, 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 where people turn off. But he's not lying when he says that.
John, let's get into this game. All right. I want to move on from this topic. John, we're playing the Commanders and Jaden Daniels. All right. I think right now, there's 4 teams left. 4 quarterbacks left. We just talked about the impact quarterbacks have on games. Is he the hottest quarterback left? I'm not saying the best. The hottest quarterback left in the playoffs right now?
Yeah, definitely.
I think so too.
Yeah, definitely. Well, now you're taking me down another route to get shit on, because I got shit on 2 weeks ago.
No, come on.
Because I said Jaden Daniels having a better season than Jalen Hurts, and I got shit on like you wouldn't believe. I think that's the least controversial thing I've ever said. Does it make him a better quarterback? No, that deals with longevity. And you saw the same thing with CJ Stroud, who had a great rookie season. And then people make adjustments, and people will make adjustments for Jaden Daniels. And it won't be all peaches and cream. But right now, he's having a phenomenal rookie season. I think what helps is the Eagles have seen him twice, so they know maybe a little bit better to what to expect versus somebody who's seeing him for the first time. But yeah, if he's playing well, he's tough to deal with. A lot of similar things to what Jalen Hurts brings to the Eagles, but even, put supersonic on it when it comes to the +1 in the running game. And obviously he's having a better passing season. And talk about elevating people. You don't have the Eagles offensive line. Terry McLaurin's been a good player. Now he's a great player. You saw what Olamide Zaccheaus was here. Not that he's great there. But he's making plays. Zach Ertz seems to have found the fountain of youth. Yeah, he's having a great season.
Yeah, he
Great
really is.
season.
John, how do you if you're coming into this game and you're Vic Fangio, how do you stop him? Because it's funny. He's got a similar feel for me, to 22 Jalen Hurts. Not the same style of player. I think he's got different skill sets. I'm not saying that, but in 22, Jalen had this ability that like nobody could tackle him. He had this weird ability to get a back-breaking first down on a 3rd and long or a 4th and short or whatever it was. And the league hadn't adjusted to Jalen Hurts at all yet. Jaden kind of has that feel to me right now where he's hard to tackle. He converts the 4th and 2s with ease for the Commanders. If you're Vic Fangio, what's the game plan against him this weekend?
Well, the first game, not the second game, when he had 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, well, he's getting better through the course of the year. I think he's playing his best football right now, actually.
Yeah, he's really difficult to deal with. And when you talk about it, he has had some bad games. His game against the Eagles, the first game was probably his worst game of the year versus, except for his first game against Tampa, he was really bad. So, it's not, again, when we say people are having good seasons, we're not saying they're perfect. We're not saying they're unstoppable. But he's very difficult to deal with. And if he's playing well on a particular game day, then then you start to go, all right, it's going to be tough. And I think the Eagles have the best defensive coordinator to deal with it, but that doesn't mean he's going to deal with it. And you saw that in the second game between the two. But besides the Tampa game, his first 2 games, he wasn't great against the Giants as well. Since then, he's kind of taken off. And he's been pretty consistent, obviously, in the playoffs as well. He seems to have really turned the corner. Seems to really trust Zach Ertz. I mentioned McLaurin's having a great season. But I worry about their offensive line. I think that's where the Eagles win the game. Typically. It's always with the Eagles. That's what frustrates me with the Eagles, because I do this every day. I got to talk about it every day, and I say the same thing. Offensive line, defensive front. That's where they got to win the game.
Right. No doubt about it.
And that's why they usually win the game.
Yeah. No, it is. But the last game we played them, it was a weird game, John. Jalen was out. I don't want to call it a fluke, but it was weird. I mean, Jaden Daniels had 5 touchdowns and the Commanders had 5 turnovers. Like, you don't hear that often. And the Commanders obviously won the game 36-33. Kenny Pickett was in that game. So he came in. Jalen Hurts is only 1 of 4 in that game. So he was knocked out early in the game. But it should be an interesting one this weekend, and we'll see how it plays out, Johnny Mac. Jaden Daniels, though, red hot, man, and he doesn't play like a rookie. He does not play football like a freaking rookie.
No, that was the most striking thing about, because you think about the divisional round and you think about all the quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, CJ Stroud, Jalen Hurts, Matthew Stafford, and of all of them, you throw Mahomes out, but of all of them, Jaden looked the most calm and collected of all of them. And Jared Goff, I forgot, playing in that game. All those veteran quarterbacks, and with the exception of Mahomes, who's unfreaking believable, he looked like the most calm and poised and collected of all of them, which is bizarre. I can't even explain it. Because he doesn't have a great offensive line.
No, he doesn't.
he lost his best offensive lineman in the game, who won't be playing, Sam Cosby, because he tore his ACL. So that's a big advantage for the Eagles. And he's still that effective. Jalen Carter last week, even more so this week. Pressure right up the middle is going to be a big part of this game. I think, though, this is more of a Nakobe Dean game. I think you're going to notice Nakobe Dean not being out there because Austin Eckler's back.
Yep, and they use him well, man. That's one thing Jaden does. He gets everybody involved. De'Ami Brown gets involved. Zacchaeus gets involved. Obviously, Terry McLaurin gets involved. Zach Ertz. They got that other tight end. I'm blanking on his name.
John Bates.
Yeah, I mean, they get everybody involved, man.
They ran the – and by the way, Cliff Kingsbury's a better offensive coordinator than Kellen Moore.
Yeah, he is.
So people were shitting on that. And the Eagles
fits dual threat better too.
Yeah, and the Eagles wanted him. They hate when I say that, but the Eagles wanted him. Now, he probably wanted too much power, so they went in a different direction. But they'll lie about that. But they wanted him, and he's having a great season. Cliff Kingsbury. But, the Eagles are more talented. And especially where it matters most. And it's exactly where nobody pays attention. Offensive line, defensive front.
Good stuff there. All right, I'm going to thank a couple of our new members. Callie, I saw your message. You're right, brother. Callie, welcome to the JAKIB family, brother. Appreciate you becoming a member, one of our great viewers here. John, he's a big fan of Johnny Mac. All right. So big thanks to you, Callie, baby. Catherine became a member. Niall, appreciate all the new members today. We will be doing a jersey giveaway. All right. Maybe a couple today. All right. So stick around after the show for Zander time and we will do that. John, one other thing I got to talk to you about, and I completely forgot at the start of the show. That is my mistake. I saw it later, didn't write it down on my show sheet for the day. All right. And we will do that right now. One other thing before I say that, though, is Andrew Conrad. Say it with me, Zander. Frankie Louvu is an asshole. He's a game-changing asshole, though, Andrew Conrad. Whether we like him or we don't, he knocks players out of games. He's a physical player, and he's got the edge physically on everybody he plays.
Frankie Louvu is the classic. You'd love him if he was on your team.
Yep. That's exactly what Frankie Louvu is.